I'm Simon Gamble. I'm Director of the British Institute of Florence, and it's my job to welcome you all to the British Institute Library, where we are sitting, some of us. And in a moment, I'll introduce our panel. This is the first event of our new Firenze Now program, and the first cycle of events under the Firenze Now banner is called The Future of Florence. And tonight, the subject is The Future of Florence, a greener, smarter Florence, ? And it's my pleasure to introduce our panel. In the chair to my right or left on the Zoom is John Hooper, from the Italian and Vatican City correspondent for The Economist, who is our moderator for tonight and will run the debate in a moment. In front of me here is Sergio Gatteschi, who is the president of the Amici, della Terra, Toscana, Friends of the Earth for Tuscany. On the screen, zooming in from Roma, we have Federico Caleno, who is the national lead for e-mobility for Enel Italia. And also on the screen, we have coming in from Switzerland, Francesco Tronci, who's president of NOVA-MBA group and is a man who works in the world of private equity and venture capital. That's panel. Now, before I hand on to John, a couple of housekeeping rules. John will start a conversation amongst the panelists, but fairly early on, we'll be inviting questions from our three audiences. We have three audiences, one with me here in the room, one on the Zoom, and the third is tuning in on Facebook Live. And each group can access the questions in a different way. So listen carefully. In the room, if you want to speak, share this microphone with me, but you keep your mask on when you're speaking, so that you don't catch what I put onto the microphone. Questions is better. Some comments, but not speeches. Short comments and questions is what we're looking for. Challenges, well, particularly. And if you are on the Zoom, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand, and Sarah, who's managing the Zoom conference on my behalf, will notify me, and you'll be brought into the conversation to ask your question and make your comment on the screen. If you are on the Facebook Live, please put your questions and comments into the comments place on Facebook Live, and Sarah will relay those to me, and I will read them out on your behalf. Okay, those are the three ways you can contribute to this experimental hybrid live Zoom and Facebook Live global debate on the future of France. John, over to you.
Good evening, but also good morning or good afternoon to those of you who are tuning in on Zoom or via Facebook from other parts of the world. Italy and Florence are finding themselves at a turning point. Starting next spring, 209 billion euros, if we are to believe the government, will come flooding through this country as a result of the EU's program for recovery from COVID-19. Give some kind of perspective to that. That is more than came into Italy as a result of the Marshall Plan after World War II, a plan that transformed the face of the country. So an enormous opportunity for Italy, but the money has to be spent in particular ways, very specific ways. The overall idea is to increase Italy's capacity for economic growth. So it will not be, as it has been for the last 2 decades, a laggard within the Eurozone and a threat to the single currency. The money has to be spent on investment to increase the size of the economy in the long term, but the plans have to be drawn up very much in the short term, and the money is going to have to be spent fast. There are deadlines all the way along the route. And to give you one example, the tunnel under the Straits of Messina, which a lot of people would like to see built, is going to probably be just too big an enterprise to fall within the scope of this project. There are other limitations. More of the money is meant to go towards the poorer south, than towards the richer north, though perhaps in the richer north there's going to be a greater capacity for drawing up appropriate plans than in the poorer south. And the plans should be, and indeed are proportionately earmarked to be, environmentally friendly and, where possible, digital. And Florence can move forward out of COVID, starting with Sergio Gatteschi, who's on my right, from Friends of the Earth, Tuscany.
Oh, thanks. Very glad to be here. And I was born in Florence. I am the president of an environmentalist association that is Amici, della Terra. And I study and I work against climate change since 20 years, maybe more, because I went to the first COP in Aya 20 years ago. And so this is just the picture of my life, okay? And I think that this is a huge opportunity. A huge opportunity because we have to invest. And what I like is not only the fact that there is some money, is the fact that we must have deadlines that in Italy we never respect, almost never in public works. To have a deadline is very, very useful for us. I think that we should improve our plans. We have plans, but nobody knows. We have the plan that is the Sustainable Energy Action Plan, that is the Convention of Mayors, and Florence has enough to involve more and more enterprises, companies, associations. This is the two things that I would like to say to the municipality of Firenze and to the Tuscany region.
I'm going to go now to Federico to talk about the aspect that, in fact, Sergio has already touched upon, which is transport, e-mobility. Where does Florence stand in that respect?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for this kind invitation. I hope that the line is good because we experienced a small problem in the connection before. I'm the head of e-mobility in Enelix. Enelix is the new company of the Enel group that is focused on new business, so new opportunity to accelerate the energy transition. And my job is especially focused on e-mobility, the development of EV recharge infrastructure in Italy to deploy e-mobility in Italy. Regarding Florence, I will say that Florence is a best practice for Italy because it was one of the first cities that pushed for the e-mobility development. We had a great relationship with the Florence municipality in order to work together in order to create this infrastructure, and now is considering the number of charging points for inhabitants is a leader in Italy, probably in Europe. We work together with the Florence municipality in order to develop new services. Florence is one of the first cities that is implementing electric taxis in the city. So we used to work with the Florence in order to develop all the new services that can be implemented in mobility, in order to have a sustainable mobility implementing a best practice that can be replicated in all the cities. So for us, it's a great opportunity to be part of this panel in order to demonstrate how Florence can be a part benchmarking, but also how we can improve in Florence, especially in terms of e-mobility. And e-mobility for us is a pillar for facilitating the energy transition.
Thank you very much indeed, Federico. Can I go now? Florence, not only greener, but smarter.
I believe you called on me. Apologies, but the line is sometimes disturbed, so you break up every now and then. So my name is Francesco Tronci. It's a pleasure, and thank you for your invitation. I work in private equity, as I mentioned, but I'm also the president of NOVA-MBA, which is an association uniting all the Italians who attended top MBA programs outside of Italy, primarily in the top US business schools, but also we started to include the leading European business schools, so Harvard, MIT, Wharton, Stanford, LBS, and so on and so forth. About 10 years ago, when I was finishing my MBA, I worked with Steve Britton, who's now the president of SACI in Florence, and with Bob Eccles, who's a renowned professor in the field of ESG, on a project about smart cities. And it was focused on the living planet ecosystem. And it was a startup founded by former Microsoft, McLaren, and Apple, and let's say executives from major multinational companies. And what they were trying to do was creating a living lab to experiment with smart city technologies, because they recognize the potential, especially as you see urbanization trends and the need to create new cities in the emerging markets, but also improve the life of existing cities. I learned a lot from that experience, so for me, it's great to participate in this discussion. I'm curious to learn more about what Florence is doing. From what I've been able to read, it seems like it's one of the most innovative cities already in Italy. But there are certain best practices that are, being rolled out around the world. And I'd like to try to bring some of them to the table, especially in thinking about how smart city doesn't only mean green, but it's a much broader concept. As defined in the Smart City Index by IMD, for example, it includes also health and safety, mobility, civic activities, opportunities, e-government and governance. There is a whole set of issues. Most of them revolve around the digitization trend. So essentially collecting smart data, creating connectivity, elaborating the smart data, and then trying to take action. But there's a lot of policy also regarding, improving the investments in green spaces in the city, waste management, and so on and so forth. And as you mentioned, it's a great opportunity to try to channel some of those investments that are going to be coming in, but also trying to prioritize them so that they make a difference. So great to be here. Happy to be of support to the discussion.
Welcome to it, Francesco. And let me start, in fact, with a question for Sergio. You mentioned that you would like to take things, you'd like to see improvements outside the area of just e-mobility. How would you like, if you had this pot of cash, we don't know how much is coming to Florence, but it's probably going to be quite a substantial amount of money. How would you like to spend it? What would your priorities be?
Let's say that for traffic, we have to spend national money. We have to finish, it's not finished the work to reduce private traffic. We have to finish the rail under the town. We have the new underground station for the high-speed trains that will, when we will finish it, hopefully, it will free a lot of rail on surface, and so the train for workers will have more room. This is important, very important. The other thing is to complete the tramway, because we have to go to east. We have to go in the area of Campi, Sesto. We have to go to Bagno Albipoli, to the stadium. So there are big investment with national money. This is very important in the frame. What I would like to spend more is to increase, for example, the district heating, to increase cogeneration and regeneration for public and private buildings. We have two or three spots, for example, around hospitals that are really very interesting places where there is cogeneration, very low emission system, and also good monitoring of the energy consumption. We have to copy our best practice that nobody knows. I think just a few people knows this. Nobody knows, for example, that around Careggi there is a district heating coming from a thermal plant just inside the hospital that reaches all the buildings that are 15 of the Careggi hospital, that reach the Mayor Hospital and even the University Sulpiale Morgagni. So this is quite, this is enough. No, we can go further. There is a lot of stuff. There are very interesting projects, for example, to have district heating in the sport area of Campo di Marte. We have where there is the pool, the stadium, the rugby stadium, there is the athletic stadium. There is a lot of places. The University of Firenze proposed a district heating in that area. It will cut emissions and will save a lot of energy. The same in the area of Palazzo di Giustizia, where there is Palazzo di Giustizia, that is a huge consumer of energy. And in front there is a Mercafir, so the big market. There are banks, there are parks, a lot of stuff. So 2 or 3 district heating, and the plan should be to cover all the town, no, like it is in many European towns and many Italian towns also. We have the sample of Ferrara or the sample of Bolzano, no, and this is a sector where we can improve really a lot. Then, of course, there are all the plans to improve the monitoring system. We have the smart city control room that is one of the best in Europe. I don't know how many people know this, but we have really very nice smart city control room where a huge amount of data come from sensors. They began with traffic lights and with the public light. Now on the public lights there are sensors that give to the smart to the control room the data about pollution, the data about environment, of course the energy data of the public light and stuff like that. We can improve it with the energy data from public buildings, for example. This is another big stuff, because you know, much we know, much we can reduce. All this must be in the new strategic action plan of the municipality of Firenze, because we just reached the 20% less the last 5 years, thanks to the tram. Now we must have more ambitious goals, more ambitious. We can go to the carbon-free city. We could do it. This is my opinion. And we have to say how many years we need to be a carbon-free town.
Let me just pick up on a couple of points that you made in your reply and go to Federico, if I may. We heard there a wish list from Sergio, the high-speed rail going under the city, the new underground station there, also to complete the tramway. Would those be on your wish list? What would you add to that, Federico, or what would you take away?
Okay, with the same goal to reduce the traffic in the city, I will push the effort in electrifying the public transportation. So electric buses can be useful to make a clean transport in the city, but also implementing, I would say, for a city like the size of Firenze, Florence, I would say that also light mobility can be a solution. So there are a lot of solution that can increase the mobility of last mile mobility. And so with a correct mix of light mobility and public electric public transport, we can have a city without congestion, a city without CO2 emission, so is a smarter city. I would say that also this, referring to this control room, smart city control room, we are is also important to ensure the connection of all this information regarding the charging infrastructure, regarding the solution that we use to recharge all the electric vehicles, and in the future also electric buses are actually imported in this control room, but also the collection of all this data can be very useful to increase the energy optimization of the city. So what is important for us is also the fact that all this electrification of the transportation can be useful to increase the flexibility of the city in order to optimize the energy usage. So it's really important to look at all these opportunity, all these new services as a way to increase the renewable penetration in the city. So all these projects are useful not only for the mobility, but also to accelerate the energy transition towards the renewable.
Francesco, can I just bring you in there? We've heard about the smart data collection at the control center in Florence, about which it seems very few people know. I think that comes as news to a lot of people. I don't know how familiar you are with the situation here in Florence, and whether you'd like to comment on how it's been done and how maybe it could be done better.
Okay, well, let's say I read some materials about what's happening in Florence, and but I wouldn't pretend to give suggestions on how to improve it without having a direct conversation with who's managing it, because usually what you can see from the outside is only part of a plan of what's going to be rolled out in the coming months, and things in this space happen at a very fast pace. The idea is to try to incorporate sensors and track everything that's happening within the city. And then the moment you start measuring this data, and so having a smart city control room is the first starting point, right? The moment you start measuring this data, and the moment you start opening up this data potentially to citizens, entrepreneurs, institutions, universities, think tanks, that's where the new ideas are going to be coming in, because it's very difficult top down to prioritize and optimize. So opening up to an ecosystem of players can allow to essentially crowdsource the ideas on how to improve things. So my first question or suggestion would be to try to invest in an ecosystem that takes that data and then starts using it. Of course, you can do that anonymizing the data, right? In a way that that doesn't, infringe on privacy of individuals or competitive information about individual companies. But the moment you start opening up that system, just like in any hub and spoke model or in any cluster of innovation, that's when you can start seeing ideas for incremental improvement that the individual mayor or administrator or executive might not be able to spot right away. And that's what several cities are trying to do, essentially trying to create living labs where they make the data available, and then they invite the entrepreneurial ecosystem and the corporate world as well, as Federico was saying, which can be also a key actor, to propose and suggest ways to improve. And then it becomes a self-reinforcing cycle, because, for example, in waste management, energy improvement, but even in public education about the circular economy and how to reduce business footprints and so on, just giving visibility to this data can have a strong educational, motivational effect, which should not be discarded.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Francesco. Now, we've been joined by the Assessore for the Environment, Cecilia Del Re. Welcome to the panel. I'd like to, before we throw open this discussion to questions, I'd like to ask you one myself. We've heard that Florence, in terms of e-mobility, is one of the most advanced cities in Italy, if not in Europe. And I wanted to ask you how you judge the performance of the city in other environmental areas. Do you think that there are areas where it is particularly behind or ahead of other cities of similar kind in Italy?
Okay. Good evening to everybody. So I'm sorry for the late, and I'm happy to be here with you also with Enel, because I know that you spoke about our project in Florence, because thanks to an European project, the Replicate project, we have in Florence now more than 70 e-taxi. And we have been the first city of Italy to do this project. Bologna made this after us, and I followed this project in the last 2 years, so I know this project very well. We have had also some difficulties, of course. Every time you do something new, you have to face some problems. But we did it, and it has been a very interesting experience, and we want to do more in this field, because we want to reach the number of 100 e-taxi at the end of the next year, thanks to some funds that the city of Florence could give as an incentive to taxi drivers in order to change their cars. And then, I mean, we are doing much also with the public transport, because the new small buses are electric and the larger one are hybrid. So, I mean, also in this field, we are doing well, and the quality of the air is much better now than in the last 5 years. We communicate this data, this result just yesterday, and this result has been possible most of all thanks to the 2 new tramways line that we realized in the 5 years past. So, I mean, we are doing, very well, I have to say, in this field. There are other fields where we have to do better. And one of these fields, for example, is the boiler heating, because in the city of Florence, we have many families, citizens, houses that have old boiler heating, and this means a lot of pollution. So we are about to open an office in order to give to the citizen information about the bonus that the government can give in this period in order to change their heating boilers. And this is a field where we have to do much better, because we have 45,000 heating boilers in Florence that are older than 12 years. And so this means really a problem for the quality of the air.
My lady, my landlady has one of them. Now, any questions from the floor, first of all?
So the way we do questions, we will have one from the floor, and the person comes and sits in this chair, because then you're on the screen. So come and sit in the chair, and please keep your mask on. Thank you. I'll hold them over.
Okay. Yes, first of all, let me just English. I'm not a permanent resident in Florence, but I'm married to a Florentino, and I've been coming here for many, many years. One thing I wanted to ask, do you really think that the TAV tunnel is worth spending billions to build the underground station, and just to gain maybe 2 or 3 minutes? Because if I understand from the plans I've seen, the train has to go around the Fortezza to the Campo di Marte, which means it's going to be as slow as it is at the moment, going past Statuto. It would have been cheaper to build a new station in Campo di Marte and leave the train as it is, avoiding going into Santa Maria Novella. The other question is, have Florence ever considered moving the Pedaggio to Prato, beyond Prato, towards Incisa and north of Florence, so that there are no peage in the center of the city, which would release free cars, make less pollution of people with the traffic coming into Florence and queuing up at the peage. And it would keep the traffic flowing and perhaps reduce the traffic in the centers. More motorists might use the motorway going round Florence if it was free. Thank you.
Now, is that a question that you would like to, or either of those issues that you would like to address? I don't know whether the peage comes within your remit, but or the railway. But two ideas there.
We are working for the so-called Scudo Verde. That means that we are working in order to have 120 doors of entrance, electronic, of course, in order to filter who will come in the city of Florence. So not just the city center, but the city of Florence. So we will we will order a pedaggio to those cars, not residents in Florence, who don't respect certain standard of, limitation for the pollution. So this is an important project for the traffic, but most of all for the environment, so for the quality of the air. So we are following the example of Milan. Milano has a system like this, and we are working in order to do this by the end of the next 2 years.
So would that mean that cars coming off the motorway would actually be stopped from coming into the city?
Yes, this means also to build the new parking in order and new tramways. In order to allow people who can come in the city of Florence to take the public transportation to come inside the city of Florence. Otherwise, they have to pay. And this is not just an incentive to use cars that are not so, green.
Mm-hmm. What about the high-speed train and the idea to put a high-speed train under Florence?
This project, is thought in order not to left Florence behind, because we are thinking that this station can help also people who come to Florence to work in order not to concentrate tourists and city users in the same station. So, we believe in this infrastructure, even if we have many delays on this project, and this means, sometimes more difficulties come from these delays.
So the purpose of it is not really the speed element; it's more a matter of trying to separate people and spread people out, rather than.
Both of this team. Also for the speed team, but also in order to delocalize the congestion that we can have in the central station.
Okay, any more questions?
So
Yes,
I'm just going to say something for the people who are on the Zoom. If you wish to ask a question, put your hand up. Meanwhile, I'll take another one from the room, and I'm going to ask people to keep the questions short and give the panel a chance to answer the question. So let's see.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have one question in general for everyone, in particular for Federico. And I want to ask about the awareness of the citizens of the use of energy, and in particular if they perceive, and this is maybe more for Federico, if they perceive the provider of energy just as the one who sent the bill, without being really careful or educated in using properly energy and in a smart way. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. So I think this is a very crucial point, and this is also a reason why we created the NLX in the Enel group, because the most important pushing for the energy transition is to train, to inform the customer about the advantage in optimizing the usage of energy, electricity. In focusing on e-mobility, this is one of the main topics we are addressing, and the training of all the stakeholders that are involved in the e-mobility business is one of the priority for us. For this reason, we are releasing the e-mobility academy. So it's a sort of program, a training program for all the stakeholders that are interested in mobility, that are involved in the mobility transition. And so we are preparing a lot of content in order to inform about the future of e-mobility, how to use electric vehicle and charge infrastructure, how to interact with, how to select the most suitable solution for comparing their usage. So this is a complete program that we are finalizing in order to address first the dealers that are the main contact of the customer that want to collect information about electric vehicles, the car dealers. But also we are experiencing the possibility to work with the municipality in order to organize a training session for the citizen. And this is for e-mobility. But for example, for the energy usage, also for the, we are working on a smart home solution. So help using technology to help the customer in using properly electricity at home. Also for business, we have the business line industry. One of the main goal of this business line is working, supporting the industries in optimizing the usage of energy, electricity. So this is to say that this is a very broad aspect that we are addressing for different customer segment, from e-mobility, from B2C, from residential customer, for industry. So is a really a crucial topic for the energy transition.
Thank you, Federico. Now, do we have any questions from Zoom or yes?
We have a question coming in from the Facebook Live audience. And I'll read it out. The news recently emerged that air pollution in Florence is down by 20% in the last 5 years. But it's my understanding that residents and workers in the city centre are not pleased with the pedestrianisation of the Lungani on the north side of the river because it's adding time to their travel in and out of the city, causing them problems with their commuting. I recently spoke with a New Orleans residents association where the city administration's pedestrianisation plans have been overruled because of the impact on accessibility to the city of New Orleans. Here's the question. How can we balance the needs of a greener city with the needs of citizens, especially at such a time? Accessibility.
That's obviously one for you, Cecilia.
This is a good question because as administration, we are working in order to to protect the citizens who live in the city center. This is also because in the last year, phenomena like Airbnb, so the short rental for tourists, exploit. So, and this can cause the improvement of the residents in the city center, because many people move away from the city center and they put their homes on this platform like Airbnb. So we are really working on this theme on the city center, and but we have to consider that if we want that people, so citizens, live in the city center, we have to think about also to the service. So I can understand what this citizen is saying. So this pedonalization caused some problems for people who live there. I know, because I know people who live there, and so I can understand their disease. But I think that, we have to think that this part of Florence is really part of the cultural heritage, and is very precious in order to protect. And we have had also some accidents in that part. So the main point is to balance, and also to give this person the opportunity to reach their house and to have a parking there. So my colleague Stefano Giorgetti is working in order to improve the quality of life. So this is for who is living there. It's a huge problem, and it's a huge issue, but I think that we can make a plan in order to, answer the needs of people who live in the city center.
Well, you have to strike a balance, as you said, and dealing with dilemmas like that is what Smart City is all about. And I know that Francesco would like to say something about that. Francesco, could you come in on this?
Yes, thank you. Well, actually, because striking a balance between different needs is one of the toughest jobs of government, right? And on this topic, there's actually a very interesting framework that's been adopted by different cities around the world. And it's the donut economics framework by Kate Raworth, who's a professor at Oxford. And essentially, several cities like Amsterdam, Philadelphia, Portland, Birmingham, and the country of Costa Rica are adopting it. And the way it works is, if you imagine a donut, you can do a graphic with the shape of a donut, and you will have many different spikes around the donut. And you can measure different levels of service to citizens, or different metrics on environmental pollution or emissions, or service level of government, or air quality, and so on and so forth. And essentially, if a certain parameter is inside the donut, it means that it's the optimal level compared to the best benchmarks across different cities. If you have a spike in that metric, it means that the city is overdoing it and overshooting it. And so maybe there is too much pollution, or maybe there is too long of a transit time, or whatever the metric is. And if the spike is too low, then it means that it might be underinvested in that area. So maybe there's too few e-bikes or e-taxis, as you were mentioning, and so on and so forth. And so when you look at this map, which is essentially a spider diagram, if you are within the donut, then it means that the economics of the city are balanced and are typically in line with the SDGs, which, as you know, are essentially the UN discussed goals that I know also Florence is working towards. And essentially, this mapping allows to take a look and trying to understand whether some things are being overdone or underdone, and trying to get in that sweet spot in the middle is what several cities are trying to do. Of course, there are many different models about it, but when I heard the question about the pros and cons, or like how do you strike the balance, that's a framework that I think should be top of mind.
Thank you, Francesco. Now,
another one.
Thank you very much. Now, I just wanted to ask a question to Mr. Caleno, if I can. I just took up an electric car in May because, of course, of COVID. Luckily, my car was arriving before, but then I needed to wait 60 days before I actually could use it. And I need to say that I would like to thank even the community of Florence, because I did receive all my permissions to enter the city center electronically. So therefore, from a smart point of view, it was quite working well. But my question is that, for example, traveling to Austria, I did see that many of the gas stations are dismantled in order to substitute them with charging stations. how does it come that Enel is never granting me any charging station on the motor highway? And the second check, do you think that in the future we may be able to work on that? And the second point that I wanted to ask is, for example, privately, I'm restructuring my home. I'm asking for putting up a photovoltaic system, but then we have Belearti who says, stop, you can't put them over here. Then I would like to put them on the ground, but that is paesaggistica, so I'm blocked. And they say, no, you can't put it into your garden. So now we have EcoBonus 110. I would like to access, but my architects are actually really going crazy and having the permission to do that. So do you think that we might be able to work, let's say, get a better synergy in between public institutions and your company to resolve those issues? Thank you.
Very, very good question. I will say, starting from the first part regarding the installation of charging station in a petrol station, we are increasing a lot the number of charging stations, and we are addressing also petrol station. Also, if our original strategy is pushing the opportunity to charge electric vehicle not only in the in the petrol station, because electric vehicle give a great opportunity to change dramatically the way in considering the recharging, the filling of the battery of the tank, comparing the older internal combustion engine vehicle. So the great change, the opportunity of the mobility development is related to the fact that the electric grid is very spread, is capillary. So we would like to give to the customer the opportunity to charge when he parks the car for any other issues, not finding a charging station to recharge the battery. But in any case, we are addressing the installation of charging station in the petrol station, and we are also, thanks to the new Decreto Semplificazione, the new law that has been published in August, we are working with a highway concessionaire in order to deploy high power chargers. So it means charging station with high power, with capability to charge electric vehicle in 10-15 minutes in highway. And we are closing agreements in order to start the deployment of charging station on the highways. Regarding the last part of the question regarding the possibility to install, this is true, but I would say this is we are working in order to simplify the installation of charging station at home, having a garage, but it's also true that living in a city with Florence, we cannot install a lot of new equipment without taking consideration that we are living in Florence. So it's a sort of a very nice city. So we need to find a good balance between installation of electronic equipment and the fact that Florence is Florence.
Sergio, I know, wants to leap in on this question.
Yeah, because I didn't finish my wishing list before, so I had two more. One was just an assist for my favorite Assessore. That is more green in town. We need more green in town. There are
more green spaces.
More green spaces, more parks, more trees. They are doing a very nice work. And I want just to spend a word to say that I really like more green roofs than green walls. This is my opinion, take it. But anyway, green roofs are very, very important in a lot of European cities. And I think that Firenze, that is a hot city, needs as much green as possible. The fact of the traffic, I don't know, I want to give you a number. All this story of the tram, the railways, the high speed, and so is because in Firenze, before the tram, came into town every day 200,000 cars. And 200,000 cars had to go away. This was the number, because a lot of people went to work outside Firenze, Sesto, Scandicci, Campi, 200,000. Imagine in a small town like our, what this means. With the tram, we have 20,000 less. We have not finished the work. Absolutely. It is important because of this. So this is the reason why. And then my wishes are the green and technological improvement. We have very nice stuff in Firenze. One is in the Replicate project. For example, a huge storage of hot water coming from solar panels, for example. That is quite new in Italy. I think there are some samples around Europe, but anyway, in a popular area, in a popular house with a lot of flats and apartments, they will have hot water all the year round, thanks to this plant. So the storage of a totally renewable hot water for domestic use, that is very important. So this is one of the things that we have to make more and more and more, because we can change the boilers, of course, but we have also plan to be more strong, to be 100% renewable. The University of Firenze, just to say what's going on in town, had built up plants with solar concentration. That means in a very small space, we have a huge temperature thanks to the sun. There was a guided system with satellite, okay, with a computer and satellite just to orient the panels, and inside this small area with water or with some added, reached something like 160 degrees. So it was really powerful. We have very, very powerful and interesting stuff in order to reach the 100% of renewable energies. And just to give an answer about superintendents and all this stuff, I think we must have a moment where we think what we want to do. So we have a lot of laws that are one against the other. From one side, I promote all the renewables. From the other side, I say here no, but we must arrange this. Of course, this is a political target. It's not useful, the money from Europe. But anyway, to better use the money from Europe, I think we must absolutely have, like, say, big meeting, big conference, something where all the different point of view to preserve the heritage and to use renewables. So we must say, we must make some upgrade about this.
I'd like to pick up on that, actually. A
question from Facebook, which feeds into this.
Yes.
The Facebook question, which is completely on the topic, which is this: attention to green space in Florence is growing. Is there a plan to use more plants to cover buildings and roofs in Florence? And if so, is this going to take into consideration the sowing of more plants that will attract the bee population, the api, the greatest indicators of air quality? You need bees to show that you're doing well.
Cecilia.
Okay. So in the city of Florence, we are working now in order to approve the first green plan of the city of Florence. That is an instrument that allows to administration to plan where to have new green areas, so new gardens, new parks, and also new green roof or green wall. I agree with Sergio Gatteschi that I prefer a green roof than to the green walls, because they are cheaper. You can, preserve, and you can have more positive effects by green roofs than green walls. But we are working on both sides, also because with the green walls, you have also an aesthetic, effect. So we can do this, and we are doing this inside the schools. We are working for 5 schools, 1 for each quarters, and we have start from the schools in order to sensibilize all the children about the importance of the green aspect in our city, in order to have greener cities, greener towns. This is very important in order also to fight the climate change. We are working also with the University of Florence in order to map the parts of Florence where we have higher temperature, the so-called isole di calore, in order to, realize there new garden, new parks, new green roof or new green wall. This is very important. And since we are planting many trees, and this, as also, as I said, a tool to fight climate change, we have then to do better for the aspect of the irrigation. Thanks to another European project, we tested a system, a smart irrigation system, using the technology. And this technology allows us to save the 30% of water. This is very important in order to build a sustainable city, because, in order to have a rational use of the natural resource, you have to use the technology in order to have then green cities, because green means water in order to allow us to have a greener city. So we have things also about this, and we have to strike a balance between green and soprintendenza and paesaggistica and so on. For example, next Monday I will be in soprintendenza because we have a project that wants to reach the aim to plant some trees in the city center, but we have to be authorized. So we are going to soprintendenza in order to have the authorization. And we are about not only to approve the first green plan of the city of Florence, but we are about to approve next year also the new urban plan. And in the new urban plans, we want also to simplify the rules for this kind of operation that allows the use of renewable energy. And so, as concern for the local administration, we will do our best in order to simplify. But sometimes we face with other regional or government national rules that allow us to do better, even because it's true, as Federico Caleno said, Florence is Florence.
Can we just go to the nub of the midollo of this whole debate, which is the money that's going to be coming to Italy as a result of the program to help with Italy's economic recovery after COVID. What would you, as the councillor responsible for the environment, want more than anything to spend money on?
We have many plans, many projects for the recovery.
The number one.
The number one.
The number one that you would fight for more than any other.
We are fighting one deputy measure against the other, because we are trying to, of course, having funds in order to realize our project. But I have to say that this administration in all the sector, so not only the environmental sector, is really focused on these challenges. So personally, I would like to realize one very important project, that is the Roger River project, so for the River Arno. We are working in order to discover the river, because we have done many things in this period in order to ensure, in order to lower the risk of the water flows. But we have also to discover this urban space in order to live this space. So the Roger Studio allows us to discover this part, and I think is very important in order to, also to change the approach to this part of the city. This is one, of course, it's very suggestive. And then we have, of course, the project for new parks, for example, where we had the Poderaccio camp. There we want to build a new, a very big new park, Florencia Park. So also for that park, we need money, we need funds, and this can be another topic, top project to fight.
Thank you very much.
So just, we got one comment from Facebook, which I'll share, and then a question coming in from the Zoom audience. So the comment from Facebook is another suggestion about the greening of the city. There should be beautiful large pot plants put in many more areas and on the streets where there's room, including also having plants in the pots to trap the bees. And then a specific suggestion, the area in front of Palazzo Pitti is large and ugly and should be greened. I have a question coming in from Zoom. Sorry, can you let Sally on?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Hello
you.
there, yes, we can hear you.
Hello. I hope this doesn't sound like a trivial question, but this is something from just an ordinary person that lives and loves Florence. I feel that there are not enough benches. You can walk and walk and walk around all of Florence, and there's no place to sit down and just take a breather and enjoy people walking by. Also, trash cans. I have a dog, and she does her duty, and I carry around a little bag for blocks and blocks looking for a place to put it. So that's my wish. That's my #1 wish. More benches and more trash cans. Thank you.
I can't believe that nobody on Zoom has raised the issue of the monopattini. When I go down to Rome, I am almost intimidated by the number of monopattini that I see on the streets. Do you think that that is a way forward for Florence, to have a mass invasion of these scooters, or are you being a bit more conservative about them?
In the last weeks, the e-bike sharing came also in Florence, and this is a revolution. We have been the first cities to have the mobile service, and it has been very useful in order to sensibilize people to use the bicycle in order to move, because Florence is a small city, so the bicycle is a very good way to move and to travel around Florence. And then yesterday, Stefano Giorgetti, my colleague, said that also the e-scooter will arrive in the next week. So we have the e-bike sharing, but also the e-scooter is going to arrive. While the monopattini, I think that we could have some problem here. So, but it's true that it's an ecological way of using, a way to travel around Florence, but you have to be very careful, because I think it can be dangerous. And then, just because Florence is not so big, maybe it's not so useful for these cities. But however, I don't have, anything against. However, I prefer bicycle and e-scooter.
Let me just ask Federico about that. Federico, Enel is keen on having monopattini in the streets.
I agree with Cecilia. So it depends on the city. So in a city like Rome, for micromobility, monopattini can be a solution. Actually, we are pushing for intermodality between different tools. So we are trying to facilitate also the use of monopattini, integrating this monopattini in our app in order to give to customer the possibility to start charging its electric vehicle in a charging station, and then use monopatiny for the last mile. So in principle, we are pushing all the tools that are moving towards electrification of mobility. But I agree that it depends on the city. So in city like Florence, probably there are other like e-bike or light vehicle that can be useful. In city like Rome, where mobility is more for the last mile, monopatiny can be useful. Like in Milan, also monopatiny can be a good solution for micromobility.
Okay. Any more questions from the room or from Zoom or indeed Facebook?
I've nothing more coming in from Facebook or Zoom unless people want to jump in, but we've got in the room. We have Jennifer Gamble. Yes, you do.
And this is the hot seat.
Oh my God. I missed the beginning of the talks and I hope this wasn't addressed. One of the problems I feel, having visited other places, for example, Tel Aviv, where every single rooftop has a solar panel and a boiler. And it's a very ugly city. And one of the problems with green, whether it's solar panels or whatever, is they're not beautiful. Surely this is something that should be addressed. Italian is known to be the center of design over the centuries, to make it possible for Florence, Firenze, to be able to go green without spoiling its beauty.
Any thoughts on that from our panel? Sergio.
Yes. We made a project with the University of Firenze, with the Faculty of Chemistry. They have a new panel that changed the color. So you can change the color of the panel according to your house. You can have several kinds and several shapes. And it is very interesting. It can be beautiful. In Firenze, so we have several colors. You can have in plastic, made in Firenze, Montemurlo, exactly. That is in province of Prato, but same area. They made also designs. For example, in Scandicci, there is like a light made with photovoltaic panels. So I think that we know that we can make them nice, not only ugly. There are a lot of possibilities. Of course, they cost more. This is the problem, no? And a lot of people don't want to spend more, so we can, but we can arrange this. It's a problem of money at the moment, not of the technology. Technology is already ready.
Jennifer, can you just hold on for a second until you've got the microphone?
Sorry.
Because otherwise the people on Zoom can't.
The grant, I don't know what it's called, all the money that is, what? No, all the money that's come from the European Union, all the funding, isn't that directed towards infrastructure? Isn't this one part of that? So is there actually really a shortage of money?
I agree with you. Technologies, develop better technologies, of course. Give to the University of Firenze and others the possibility to study and project and invent, of course. I quite agree with you.
If it's invested. What you couldn't do with that money, as I understand anyway, is to give people some part of it that accounts for the amount that is needed to make it more aesthetically pleasing. You can't give people tax breaks because that also comes within a kind of current expenditure. It's not investment. So it might be difficult, in fact, to spend the funds in that way. We have another
little question.
We have Beatrice back in the hot seat with another question.
For Sergio, about what the University of Florence is studying, because if I don't remember badly, I thought that the University of Florence was studying a kind of pellicola, like come si dice pellicola? How do you say pellicola in English? Film. I didn't remember film. A film that that works as a solar panel, and this could be used in the historic center, like our historic center.
Yeah, but what? Just to say, a place where you can see a very nice application for renewables is Meyer Hospital. You can find in Meyer Hospital the green roof, and there is the solar greenhouse that has a photovoltaic system with just little, very, very sharp lines, but they are just inside the window, the big window. So you just go and see, and it's very nice. We have, but another big technology we are developing that's new for us is the house in wood, popular house in wood. That it's a green experiment because they use also local wood. A Gavinana in front of Coop, there are new social housing, a lot of new social housing in wood, entirely wood, that comes from the area of Rufina, Vallombrosa, and they are making the same. Also, this is Casa SPA that's doing a very nice job. The same in Via Torre degli Agli, in Novoli. They are, you can see they are growing up, but a very big house, not a small house, a house with a lot of apartments.
We are building in the same way also the new schools, for example, Compagni.
Now, any more questions from our Zoom audience? No. Any more from the floor? No. I think at this point we might bring our proceedings to a close. I can thank our distinguished panel of the Assessore for the Environment, Cecilia Del Re, Sergio Gatteschi from Amici, della Terra, della Toscana, for Francesco Tronci in Switzerland, and Federico Caleno in Rome. Thank you all for a stimulating discussion, the first in the series of Firenze now.
And as the host, I get the last word. There are to be 5 further Firenze Now Future of Florence panels. The next one is I can't remember, it's about 2 weeks from now. We'll publicize it, and it's looking at the question about how to build a knowledge economy for Florence. And it goes forward with higher education, the issue of tourism, the issue of manufacturing in the bottega, and then at the end, we're going to look at the centro storico and how to rebalance the centro storico. So that all the themes will be covered. And so this is a good experiment. It's worked reasonably well technically. Please write to us with your suggestions and feedback for how we can do it better. And also tell your friends and your networks about it so that we spread the word about this new initiative to bring the international ideas and thinking and experience into Florence at this time when there's a massive opportunity for the city to redevelop as a better place than it already is. And the last word I have to say, but the Institute has no public funding whatsoever. We're having a tough time because of COVID. So if you can donate, whatever you feel comfortable, through the website, you can go online to our crowdfunding. And for those in the room, if you want to drop a couple of coins in the box on the way out, it would be much appreciated. And thank you very much to the panelists and to John for doing an excellent job. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.